Look this way. Hello, welcome to the... Oh, I started again. Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. It's Monday night. It's Age of Sigmar night, and I'm joined by my show host and a man who I saw less than... I don't know, I saw you about 12 hours ago or something. Hi, Nath.
Hello.
How are you?
Bit dusty.
A bit dusty?
Yeah.
Okay, how did the... Oh, Rograx, thanks for joining the knee stabbing gang. Why are you dusty?
Oh, I've been one coat rendering today.
One coat rendering. Is your microphone on?
No. Never.
Let's just do a double check. I think it is.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Just tap the top. Okay, don't do that anymore. That's fine.
Wakey, wakey!
Good. Right, hello everyone in the chat. There's a lot of you. Tristan Gray and Sunise, Rograx. I'm pretty sure I saw Nikos, all of our, we obviously the Scrivo. I saw all of our moderators in the chat, so make sure everyone stays in line. And by in line, encourage them to do all of the messing about. Nathan, is there anyone you want to say hello to in the chat there?
No, fuck them all.
I'm sorry about that. Hi Liam Jordan, Relian, G Mulroney, how are you doing? So hello everyone, welcome to the show. It's Monday, we're going to talk Age of Sigmar, but the first thing we need to do, as always, and is really the only reason we're able to do any of it, is thank everyone on Patreon and Twitch who donates, subscribes, merci beaucoup, because you guys literally make it so that we can do this stuff. So it's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. If you listen to the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, jump over onto Twitch so I can read the chat. I am going to find a way to integrate it all at some point, but that's not today. Oh, Erdic, thanks for subscribing. That's cool. Thanks to everyone who subscribes. There is only Joe. How you doing? 0 and 5, Joe. Good job.
That's how you do.
Lee Bromley, what a gorgeous man.
Remember when Joe used to be mediocre?
Oh, I do. Now, if anyone types in !Joe into the Twitch chat, you will. Warhammer Weekly Tom, I was just talking to you. We have got an amazing list for Adepticon, which we'll never tell you. It's a secret. I've got a secret.
You've got a secret list.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. Par, AD Mac, the organiser of the Sheffield Slaughter, along with the wonderful Mr. Pete Scully. I haven't had loads of engagement with Pete before, but Pete was fantastic this weekend. Like, pretty chill.
Yeah, he's a pretty smooth dude.
He is a pretty smooth dude. Yeah. Yeah, there's Jet. But before we get on with the show, so the whole show is going to be about the Sheffield Slaughter. That's what we're going to do the whole show. But that's going to encompass and ensconce, that's a good word, a couple of different subjects. Specifically...
Ensconce, that means... Come on.
Yeah, that means enrapture.
Satan.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It means enclose. I'm almost certain. Hi, Hook and Pin, Ghost Valley. Right, before we get on with that, inside it is going to be, number one, just us that being there, how the experience was and all of that, if that's okay with you. That's what the plan is today. Yeah? Sure. Inside that, obviously, is then both the Skaven and the Fleshy Corpse battle tomes, their effects, what we saw, some of the games that we saw and general conversations that we had.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then after that,
Gloomspite.
And the Gloomspite. Yeah, don't worry. There's going to be a cyclic conversation about that. That's going to lead into a cyclic. Yeah, they're going to try and make up as many words as possible.
Psychedelic.
G Mulroney, thanks for subscribing. Nick Thompson, how you doing? He was great. Matt Pashby, our American friend.
He was great, but not anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So then we're going to talk about the scenarios.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do next week, I think. Liam Jordan, thanks for subscribing and joining the knee stabbing gang. Appreciate that loads. Any of you can subscribe for free with Twitch Prime or just subscribe anything. There's something I want to tell you. Let me get to the end of this. Don't subscribe for a minute. Just wait. We're going to have a conversation
Might
about...
change your mind.
We're going to have a small conversation about scenarios in AOS. Leading into next week, we're going to do a scenario review. If that's okay with you. Good. And if it's okay with the Twitch chat, that sounds great. And then we're going to talk about the results. We're going to talk about future tournaments and how you possibly can deal with some of these newer battle tomes or some of the things that we saw from the weekend.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you. Sure. Pretty certain that's it. But before we get to that, because there's a lot of calls for Jet, !Jet, whose face you can see. Now, Twitch have updated. So we were pushing really hard a couple of months ago to try and become partners, which means we get access to more emotes. We didn't get there because we do other shows and they're not this is pretty popular and the 40k one's pretty popular, but when we do the hobby stuff, not as many people hang out, so it lowers the averages.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we didn't get there. But then Twitch have changed some of the terms and services, which is cool, which means we get access to some more emotes. Now, Nathan, you don't know this, but the very next emote that we're getting is an emote with Jet's face, and it says Jet, designed by the wonderful Mr. Scrivo.
Nice one, Scrivo.
Nice one, Scrivo. So you all, if you are a subscriber to the Twitch channel, will be able to use a Jet the dog face in all of the other Twitch channels around the world. Which I feel like that's the only reason we should do the show at this stage. We might make every emote we have just various Jet emojis, if that's okay. So let's see how you guys react to that. LOV is all about it. Hook and Pin's all about it. Hi, LOV. We'll be doing our stat show tomorrow if you guys want to join us. Caleb, make Seraphon great again. I agree with that. Will you be at Warhammer tomorrow's at all, Rob? Yes, potentially. Also need to give me a haircut, that's true. And the Jet butthole emote. Hi, Speckles. How you doing? So, are you happy about that?
Yeah. Sounds grand.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch like a world championship of some sort of event around the world, and then you can just put a Jet emoji in there as well.
I'll bear that in mind. Thank you.
You alright with that?
Yeah.
You might. I'm only doing it so you finally subscribe to the show.
I do occasionally, but when I remember.
So that potentially will go through in the next couple of days, which is cool. And also Lexopolis, thanks for subscribing in honour of Jet, and Ruskies has donated 350 bits, which I assume are for Jet. Oh. He's heard. Okay, good. I thought you'd be more chuffed with that. Okay. The fit gladiator. Andy Shader. Everyone's going to subscribe now. Andy Shader, thanks for subscribing. Right, Nath.
Yep.
Twitch chat. Sheffield Slaughter this weekend. Yeah?
Yeah.
How did you have a great weekend? That's the first thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
If you guys listen to the podcast or you're watching somewhere else and you didn't see, we attended the Sheffield Slaughter, which is the world's oldest Warhammer Fantasy event. So obviously it was Warhammer Fantasy Battles, now it's Age of Sigmar. 22 years it's been running, which is pretty incredible. It's run by Pete and Adi and the Dragon Slayers, and we were at the Davy Sports Club over in Sheffield. I've got to say...
They set it up just when they retired, didn't they?
Pardon me?
They set it up when they retired.
The Davy Sports Centre?
No, the Sheffield Slaughter.
Yes. Adi and Pete set up the event. They retired and they thought, we've got a lot of free time now.
Let's make this event. So 22 million years ago, you said?
Yeah. Thank you, Speckles. Thanks for subscribing. Yes. So that's where we were, if you guys don't know. And then that was a match play event attended by 80 people or so, which was pretty much all the venue could fill. And we're going to talk. We did the live coverage, which you can watch back on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook if you really want to. So go and do that if you like doing that sort of thing. I encourage you to, because it was quite cool. And we're going to talk about that for the day. So that's cool. Yeah. But
I reckon they could have fitted more players. It was really nice and sunny, and there were loads of
It
fields.
was weirdly sunny. For the middle of February, it was weirdly sunny. But we could have had it. I don't know why they didn't organise a kickabout on the footy pitch outside after. Probably jealous of all those young'uns who can run and leap and all those other items. Denise what would like to say, Nath.
Yeah.
Before we run down the Spice Road, I wanted to mention this was Nath's strongest commentating weekend yet. Very sharp and funny.
I only commented. Oh yeah, I commentated on a couple of games. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Oh, there you go. That's good. Nathan was on point at the weekend. There you go. Get to the chopper evening. The whole show was on point apart from game 5. Okay, well, that's not our fault, I don't think. Okay, so we attended the event, and before we get into anything, the thing I'd like... Also, how are you, Twitch chat? Are you all okay? Hi, Mick Wendell. I've got a couple of shout-outs that I need to make from this weekend. So I obviously want to thank everyone else. Personally, would need to thank everyone who helped me with the live stream. So that would be you. So thank you.
Thank you.
That would be Adam Chucklebutty doing his infield reporting.
Thank him.
That would be Scrivo doing all of the great button pushing and not getting drunk on Saturday night.
Sure.
Congratulations. Yeah, he's kicked the bucket.
Well, he passed away. Is that why he didn't drink?
I like that the live stream is made up of like men who look like geography teachers, potential alcoholics, an entire spice lord who is Adam Chucklebutty, and also a giant thank you to Mr. Adam Kunis from Angelcast, who came all the way up from London, because Londoners don't often like to come north of the wall, as they describe it. North of the wall being London.
Outside of the circle.
Yeah, outside of the circle of London. So he came all the way up and help commentate, and that was very awesome of him. And he gave up his weekend to do so for everyone. So thank you to everyone, and then also thank you to Nikos playing on the stream all weekend, which was great. Thank you to everyone who came on the stream, and also big shout out to both Adi and Pete, who was super supportive of us, helped, like, because, you know, they were packed, they were sold out, and they were, like, making some space to accommodate us doing the live stream. And then we set up a second table, which they hadn't planned for, but they were really accommodating. So I just want to say a big thank you to those guys. Yeah, real nice. Okay, cool. Good, I did that. And then the first question about the Sheffield Slaughter Nath, is, all weekend you were wearing shorts. The hot question is, from everyone on Twitter, why?
Because it was sunny.
Is it because we went to Australia where everyone was wearing shorts and you haven't worn trousers since? Have you worn trousers since?
Occasionally. I'm wearing trousers now.
Oh, you dressed up?
Shut.
I don't know if you know that you've got a hole in your trousers.
Oh, yeah, I do. These are great.
I can't tell. No, stop! It's we've got terms and services. Get down.
There's no. Oh, I can't see my cock. I've got underpants on as well. With steers on. They're the best for power stancing. These are. Ooh. There we go.
I've got to undo my shirt. I'm sweaty. I don't know if that was... The thing was, you messaged me, you were like, I'm going to be a little bit late, and I messaged you back, I went, oh, don't worry, we try really hard to do a super professional show, but, I mean, we just got to roll with the punches where we can.
Well, there you go. You asked if I was wearing trousers. They're a bit dusty. I'm a bit of a dusty fucker today.
What have you got? Oh, please talk to the Twitch chat. I can't just...
Hello, Twitch chat. Oh. I think Rob broke. Yeah, he's broken. Oh. Yes, there were 2 squigs bouncing. Did you see them? Just like Scragrot.
Is that the dank hole?
Right.
Coop the Dreamer, thanks for subscribing.
Somebody's stalking us now. So, yes, I did have shorts on over the weekend.
Pardon me?
And it was sunny. I should have had them on today because it was sunny today, but...
Well, you probably turned them into shorts.
Well, they're a bit more like a kilt, really. Like a long, flappy kilt.
Oh, okay. I'm so sweaty all over. Right, okay. Good. That was funnier than I intended it. Well, funnier to me. I apologise, Twitch chat, but... okay. I don't know where to go. You've broken me. I've been thinking about this all day. I was like, right, no problem. There's loads of hot button issues. I can approach them in a calm and respectable manner. Okay.
Right.
Okay, JJ number thing. Thanks for subscribing. Appreciate that a lot. Okay, let's do it. Right. Okay, no problem. So we were at the Sheffield Slaughter. You were in shorts. Cool. It was a 2-day match play event. It was 2,000. I'm just gonna get myself back in. Yeah. 2,000 play match play event, right?
I don't know where you were going with the shorts thing, but there we go.
It was just it. Someone on Twitter went, Nathan's always wearing shorts now. Ask him about it, and I went, cool, and I did.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
I don't always wear
Shepherds of the belt.
-1 to hit or -1 attack.
Are those your boy Grot Pounders?
Yeah, it's a squiggy launch.
Right, okay. AOS Rookie, the next big event is in 2 weeks because there's Blood Tithe, but there were 2 other events rocked around the world this weekend, which I'll talk about as we get towards the end.
Cool.
Right, okay. So it's cool. It was a match play event, and most importantly and notably, if you listened to the show last week, one of the really interesting things was that it was going to be a week after the release of 2 battle tomes at once.
Yeah, we're going to see Flesh Eaters and Skaven.
Flesh Eaters and Skaven. So when it
came on the tables,
yeah,
and there were loads.
Pardon me?
And there were loads.
There were loads, and they placed really, really well as well. So yeah, both books were out, and there were lots of other armies in attendance. There was an army full of giants, which I know you're excited about.
Yeah, that was great.
There was an army full of giants, and one of them beat Speckles' Flesh Eater Courts army.
Yeah. The giants all jumped up and down and put some ghouls in their pants.
Yeah, I was asking earlier what we thought. I was asking a couple of people what they thought the weaknesses of Flesh Eater Courts were, and Speckles replied to me that it was ogres and giants. I was like, yeah.
Specifically giants.
Specifically giants, yeah. Yeah, Blood Tithe is a team event. I actually have the lists, and I'm doing a list review in the next couple of days, so watch out for that. It's an international team event as well, organised by Mark Wilson. It's always run really well from everything I've ever heard. Really excited to go there. The event at the Davies Sports Club was really cool, really great. It was a really great atmosphere, I thought. I thought everyone was on a real great level. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was buzzing nicely.
Everyone was having a great time, which is cool. The drinks were super cheap, which was great.
Yeah. They ran out of drinks pretty quick.
Yeah.
They had to go and
go order some more.
Yeah. To get a load more barrels for their cellar.
Yeah. So initially, Nath, I don't want to. So one of the things that we did also, we ran a Twitter poll. And with the Twitter poll, what we did was we put up 4 people for a public vote on who they wanted to cover through the weekend. So not only did we cover like 5 games on kind of Table 1-esque, which we actually did, which maybe just because I was tired, I'd forgotten to go. There was like a Corn Dragon and we didn't go and see it play on the screen, and maybe I should have. But I felt like putting Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven on early, and then ended up that they just took the weekend away and were just smashing face all day long. But we did the Twitter poll, and 350 of you voted. So big thank you to anyone who did vote. And what's really cool about that, then one of the show hosts, 40k Nikos, ended up playing like 5 games, and we just got to cover him. And that was like one person's journey through the event, and that was really fun, right?
Yeah. Especially
Especially as he got almost no priority rolls over the entire weekend. It was
That all comes from being a first stager.
Exactly. And there were loads of really interesting Skaven lists as well. What was nice about the Skaven lists, or I thought was really interesting about the Skaven list and the Flesh Eater Courts list, is all the Skaven lists were different and all the Flesh Eater Courts lists were the same. And they weren't the same. That's not fair. Sometimes there were 2 G-Cots, as I call them now. So Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist. I know there needs to be another G there, but whatever. Terrorgeist is one word, so it wouldn't be TG.
Whatever, yeah.
So G-Cot, you up for G-Cot?
Yeah. Or you could just call him Ghoul King on Terrorgeist.
It's just that that's longer, you see. I'm trying to white person it. G-Cot, shorten it.
Yeah. But then you have to explain yourself every time. It takes half an hour to say the word.
That's easier. Oh, have you got 2 G-Cots? I'm so sorry, I don't know what that means. Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, but Terrorgeist is one word? You know what I'm saying? G-Cot.
Sure. Go for it.
And were you tracking any? So it seemed to me like the Flesh Eater Courts armies were very similar. Yeah, they always had almost all of them, apart from Speckles, and Speckles did the worst of all of the Flesh Eater Courts. They were Gristlegore, which was super impactful, and we will talk about that in a bit. And a lot of the Skaven lists always had the Warp Lightning Vortex, but not in every situation. I don't think Nick took it.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I bet all of them had a Warp Lightning cannon.
Yeah,
at least one.
At least one.
Some of them had more.
Yeah, but and the list was super interesting. So we saw John Dale's list play. And what was cool about the weekend is we covered 10 games. So if you go back and watch the info, or go watch the coverage, you'll get to see 10 games played as opposed to like our more traditional 5. So I was really proud of that. I thought that was super cool, and I think it helped keep the coverage a little bit more like fast paced. I definitely felt it as a commentator because I didn't really know how it would work until we did it. So I was like, let's just do it, and then we kind of review it after. And me and the guys are talking. You and me haven't had a chance yet, but I actually felt like...
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the people that watched it thought, really.
Exactly. So if you did watch it, Twitch chat, I'll ask you now if you've happened to watch any of it. But anyone else around the world, if you want to tweet or Facebook message the Honest Wargamer page or leave comments on the YouTube or any of that, just with your thoughts and whether or not you felt it was too sporadic or if you liked it and it made it more engaging, it would be really interesting to hear what the audience have got to say realistically. And Laurie Huggett Wild, Mr. Huggett Wiggett himself says, jumped in and out over the weekend, all looked stellar, which is cool, and Harrylicious liked it, which is good. Alright, nice, good. But yeah, so we saw quite a few different Skaven lists. Were there any takeaways that you had about them? Because what I was going to do, what I've got here is to approach each one. We'll ask a question about each of those 2 books. And we'll talk about the other stuff that we saw as well. But I think this is important because they were there this weekend. So how represented were they? Now, that's quite important because the Gloomspite Gits book came out a month or more ago, nearly 2 months ago. And they were fairly underrepresented, right?
Yeah, so there were 3, I think there were only 3 of those guys.
Yeah. However, Skaven, there were way more than that, like double that. And then Flesh Eater Courts, the same, double. And it was only been a week out. And I know that those are armies that you could already have or have in attendance.
Yeah, whereas the Gloomspite loads of new models, which I'm sure, I mean, I've not, all I've got painted up are the Shrine and a couple of Endless Spells. I've got loads to paint, so yeah.
Yeah. You're still. I've seen you buzzing away at it and working and getting them done. So, and the guys are pointing out that Flesh Eater Courts only have 6 models that they've got to rock around, so fairly easy.
Yeah.
But they've also in a week had to put Endless Spells and scenery pieces together. So,
but then Endless Spells and scenery are quite quick to paint actually, which is why they're the ones that I've been doing on the Gloomspite. I mean, I've glued all the other stuff together and primed it, but I've got a few like tester models, but yeah, I'm still miles behind. I know a lot of people have got Gloomspites all painted up or partially painted, so yeah.
So it's really interesting when we get to it.
But they're not. I don't think they're as competitive as those 2 new books. Definitely not.
Well, I think actually what's really key, or my takeaway, and I was talking about this while I was at the event. I actually think if we just start at the beginning of this year and we take the 3 books that we've had, Gloomspite, Flesh Eater Courts, Skaven, I think it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors situation. I think Gloomspite beat Flesh Eater Courts because their units are naturally -1 to hit. And I feel that the way to defeat Flesh Eater Courts, and we are going to talk about them in a bit, and even, I didn't get the dice out, do some dice rolling, which is going to be quite exciting. Play a little game along with us. Play a little game. Because naturally -1 to hit Terrorgeist, there's some here, are quite impactful. It's quite good, and making them minus to hit is the way that you're going to shut them down, in my opinion. Whereas Skaven kill all the characters in the Gloomspite book, which I think makes them fall apart. And then I think that the Flesh Eater Courts beat the Skaven list because you've kind of got chaff, and then you've got some fairly elite units that are quite good, but can fall over with the exception of the Warp Sit. So I think that's a kind of dynamic in the rock paper scissors game. I think now that's just an opinion. I don't like sit here and state my opinion as fact. I just think that that's the situation. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Sounds logical, but yeah, I don't know. I think Gloomspite still struggle against Terrorgeist.
You think?
Yeah, and I do think that the other Flesh Eater Course lists, which we haven't seen, the blister thing in the jiggy one, with all the flayers, I think.
You think that could do better?
Yeah, I think that one would be harder for the Gloomspite.
Okay, all right, that's fair. You play them more than me, so I take that on the board. I think the -1 to hit infantry blocks is kind of already a big kicker, realistically, because I think even the incredible damage that a G-Cot does, so Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, but I've shortened down the Terrorgeist to 1T. Yeah, so it's a G-Cot. Do you get what I'm saying?
I still don't understand what it is. Sounds like some sort of weird fruit.
Some sort of conspiracy. Yes, so I think that's the kind of. But we'll talk about that later.
I mean, they've got loads of screams. They'll scream off lots of dudes. And then there's those unmodified jaw attacks are still 6s. They seem to get those a lot of the time.
They do.
So, I can see them still munching their way through big blocks of dudes pretty quick.
Cool. So how did they do is the next kind of question. We will talk about individual games and stuff as we go through. And I think this is important, like we saw, Flesh Eater Courts came in 2nd place, and they were 3 times in the top 10 and twice in the top 10 for Skaven.
Yeah, I think there were only 2 in the top 10 Flesh Eaters.
No, I think there were 3. 10th was Steve Curtis with
he was deaf though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He was not. Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Hey, Valley.
Pretty sure he was Legion of Nagash.
Okay. All right. Cool. So but they did well.
Yeah.
They placed in the top.
Yeah, exactly. There are two of them. Well, 20% in the top 10 and 20%.
Yeah, it was three FEEC. Oh, Arkian, 1,000 bits. Check out the size of my donation. Oh man, thanks so much, Arkian, one of our original viewers and moderators. So that's lovely of you. Thanks, man. So yeah, they did really well. Basically,
Yeah.
Long story short, they did really well.
Exactly.
So then next up is, what are the strengths of each one? That's the next question.
Yeah.
So what do you think the strengths of the Flesh Eater Corpse book are? I mean, it's really obvious, but...
Well, this got very mobile, high damage dealing units.
So I don't think that they have high damage dealing units. I think they have nothing else in the game level dealing units. And also, and what they can bring to bear is exceptional. And some people may not have watched the week coverage over the weekend, so we can start to break it down for people a little bit, I think. And this is where the dice rolling fun would come in. But I've got 3 dice. I've left all the other dice down in the other room. There you go. They're for you, Nath. Right. So the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why this is an interesting model is you can add D3 attacks, but we're going to ignore that for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to ignore that. But the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist gets to strike first.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty massive, I think. The slow sentry, thanks for donating 98 bits. Appreciate that loads. So yeah, it's a fast model, moves really fast, and it gets to strike first before you do. So even if you charge it, strikes you.
Yeah.
So you can't charge it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way to kill it is to shoot it or magic it. You can't charge it, because if you charge it, it will kill you first.
Yeah.
There's nothing it doesn't kill first, based on the math, unless you throw something into it that's like a -2 to hit.
Yeah, or else strikes first.
Or else strikes first in your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the only way to make it work.
But
right?
then they would still die, because it can be activated to fight after it's died.
Exactly. So you can spend a command point to have it activate even when it's dead, and you can spend another command point to make it activate even though it's dead twice.
Yeah.
Right? So you charge it, it goes first. If you kill it, somehow it can still activate to attack you twice back. So you can only shoot it.
Yeah.
Great. Follow-up.
Or else exchange a unit for it.
Or exchange a unit for it. The follow-up is if it's then the Flesh Eater Corpse player's turn, they can charge in that general. So that's the general. Oh, Velatron, thank you for the bits donation. He's also said my bits donation is bigger than yours. So if it's the Flesh Eater Corpse turn, he's going to be. So he's got a 400-point model, yeah, which is his general. It piles in and it attacks twice. So it's got 800 points worth of output.
Yeah.
Sweet. Then, because it's the Flesh Eater Corpse player's turn, they can then attack in the actual combat phase with another Ghoul King on Terrorgeist and pile in and attack twice if they've got another command point. Each one of those costs twice. Yeah. So now, before you've even got to... It's not you go, I go. It's I go 4 times, you go.
Yeah.
To put into context how deeply powerful these guys are. So you've got a chaff screen, they'll kill that, and they'll kill the things behind the chaff screen as well if you don't put them far enough away, I'd say.
Yeah.
Although I'd really like to see one of those with some Griffonian gauntlets, right? Doing a 6-inch pile-in after it wipes the thing out.
Are they allowed to pile in the second time?
Yeah.
I don't think they are they?
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, okay.
Dude on A, thank you for the bits donation for Mark Wildman's net list this time. So, 4 activations, which effectively means you're doing 1,600 points of combat before your opponent ever has a return go.
Yeah.
That's to give you some sort of concept. Now, if you do something crazy like take 3, and the third one has the Doppelganger Cloak, and you have 3 command points, you can pile in 2, attack twice, basically. So you've got General, he goes first, goes twice. Then you've got the next guy, goes first, goes again, and then twice. And then something has... Then you can't strike at the Doppelganger Cloak guy until he goes, and then can go twice. So if you've got 3 command points and those guys, you effectively can do 2,500 points of combat before your opponent ever gets to do any combat.
Yeah.
Which is cool, right?
Yeah, good for them.
I think it's...
Which is why I think they would go through a Gloomspite army. I think you need something with decent range output, which Gloomspite don't really have.
So you think you could only do you think you could only get them? So this is the interesting conversation. I wanted to put it in context for people because I was like trying to work it out, and it is bananas the damage. So let's do the damage. You up for it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So everyone follow along at home. I'm going to get you its profile up because this is really fun. Ghoul King on an abhorrent ghoul. Sorry, it's an abhorrent Ghoul King. But anyway. So now, and there's also a loadout. So the most important thing that you can do is you give a mount trait, which gives you rerolls on your jaw attacks.
Yeah.
That's the important one. And if you take another War Scroll Battalion, you can do it twice. So this is not adding D3. You can also add D3 attacks to all of these melee weapons. So let's do it. You got the Talons and Fangs. 5 attacks, hit on 3s.
That's 3.
And win on 3s.
4, 5. 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. Yeah.
So 5 go through at -1. Then you've got the Skeletal Claws, which has got 4 attacks off.
Yeah. So hitting on.
Hit on 4s, brother.
So it's but these are re-rolling, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that works. And then the last one, yeah.
-1.
Yeah.
D3 damage.
Oh,
right.
What do they wound on?
3s.
3s. Okay.
-1, so 5 up save. Oh, you save one.
No. So that's 2 go through.
A -1,
no.
5 up save against a 4 up save model.
Save them both.
Oh, fuck yeah, good job. Then you've got the Fanged Maw, which has got 3 attacks.
Yeah.
Hit on 4s. Any 6s do flat 6 mortal wounds.
I've rolled 2 6s. So
you've
I get to re-roll that one.
You do get to re-roll it. Please do the 6, because this is the fun bit.
Oh, no, it was 2 again.
Okay, so you've done 12 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
then wound again on 3s.
Yes.
Sweet. -2, so 6 up save.
Saved 1.
Good job. And then D6 damage.
5.
So you've done 17 damage in that round of combat.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. There were some others. Plus the other ones. Then just pile in again. Just do the more attack, because it's just fun. How'd you do? You missed
re-roll
twice.
those.
Re-roll them, bro. Only 2. No mortal wounds.
No.
Then 3s to wound.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And then -2, so 6 saves only.
No.
Then 2d6 damage. 7.
7, yeah.
So you've only done 24 damage with that model.
With the jaws.
With the jaws.
Yeah.
Only the jaws.
So, and they're 3-inch reach, are they?
Yeah, and thank you, Elm Birds. Rob, you're forgetting the Dwistlegor's ability to do 2 hits on a roll of a 6 with monsters.
Oh, yeah. So, there were 2, weren't there?
Thanks very much, guys, for the Twitch chat. I just wanted to have the really... Rob, you're forgetting about shouting mortal wounds on the way in. Yeah, you do have to... You have to scream mortal wounds. But you did some good dice rolling as well.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So that's 27 damage just from the jaws on one guy, which kills anything. I'm pretty certain. Obviously, if you got Nagash, who's twice your points, then he's got 4 up mortal wound save. Probably a Phoenix could potentially save it, and also making it -2 to hit could save you. But then you're only hitting on 6s, but then you re-roll all misses,
and they give you extra attacks
anyway. So have they already talked Razordons? And we haven't talked about those yet. No, the attack sequence doesn't end with the mortal wounds. The mortal wounds is in addition. So it's pretty fun. So you can do that basically twice or 3 times, and that's why they've done so well this weekend. Because they do. I don't know anything that can survive one of those. That's what I tried to work out the other day. Maybe a Frostart Phoenix buffed up. Maybe a Verminlord Warpseer with his 4 up ethereal rerollable save with a 5 up and a 5 up. Could potentially be the way.
Could be. Although we did see one die to one.
What?
A Warpseer.
Yeah, we did see a Warpseer die to one. So, and Kolaru, I thank you for pointing that out. Kolaru has pointed out that Wild Riders with shields would be able to survive because they couldn't reroll.
Because they got shields.
They got shields. So, the only reason, I'm not like, look, how do I feel about it? I feel it's pretty dumb. Like, level of output, personally. I think the concept of there being a risk versus reward factor, and sometimes you are going to absolutely miss absolutely everything, even with the re-rolls. So sometimes it's not going to do. And probably what you might be able to do against these Ghoul Kings and Terror guys is just stick a unit out and just hope that they roll badly, which is not a great solid tactical plan. Like, I mean, I was in a great conversation last night with your son Josh, who talked about Caesar winning a battle outside against insane numerical odds. So there could be the chances, and sometimes it will happen, if anything, the arrogance of, I mean that not as in the players themselves of arrogance, but your faith inside the G-Cot will sometimes let you down and potentially lose you games.
What's a G-Cot?
So it's a Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist, but I've shorted it down. But it's actually an AG-Cot or an AG-Cot.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a abhorrent bit.
Is it like a small car? Like a small car.
So, yeah. Paul Bassey Games, KO ironically will lift them off the board, as would the Ruck. Mords or the hard counter of ranged attacks. Yes, I agree. So ranged attacks are going to be the way you could potentially deal with them. And then there are loads of Charles. If you're listening back, this is really interesting. So this is just for
loads
you.
of Charles?
No, just Charles. Just get a guy called Charles, another guy. You've got things like, obviously you've got the Khorne Battle Tome coming out, so you've got things like Wrathmongers. And while that's, I mean, they're great. Like, you're going to want to send Wrathmongers in there all day.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't rely on everything, right? Like, so if you've got a really shooting army, like we've seen with some shooting builds, like when I covered the London Masters, it meant that going and getting objectives was fairly problematic for those builds. And while it's cool having kind of like, well, I've brought the gun line because I only ever win 3 and 2 games at a tournament. Like, you got to have some pretty like gracious people just be like, don't worry, I'll make sure I kill all of the Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist. Like, that's my only plan. Because you still got to have a pretty effective chaff screen, because they move really, really fast. They also heal when they murder stuff, because of the Chalice. If you cast the Chalice, they murder stuff, and they heal. So, probably more effectively than a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, with his D6.
If they're killing hordes, definitely.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like having seen them on the tabletop, so we saw the wonderful Mr. Lee Bromley, and there are loads of things. What do you think about them? We're just talking about raw damage output, and then we'll talk about loads of other factors.
They're just very scary.
Yeah, I was like looking at them, and I was like, I mean, there's things like Marathi as well.
Yeah.
So like you can only do 3 damage to Marathi. But then what I would do if I was the first Sheeta Courts is I would just murder every other unit on the board. And while, yes, Marathi could potentially come over and beat me up, like, I'll be like, she's not beating up the rest of my army. Because while those 2 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist that we're necessarily talking about are murdering a whole army, you've got some ghouls sat on objectives, you've got some summoning happening where you've got some flayers on some objectives as well. So, like, they're just unreal. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, There's only a few things that seem to be able to deal with them. Shooting, and in combat, like you say, if something's got loads of minuses to hit and it's got a mortal wound save, they stand a chance, but it's unlikely.
Oh, Veli, thanks for donating the 1,000 bits for Chucklebuttys coverage of the weekend, which was excellent. Yeah, I wanted to express to people.
Just at the moment, they look like they're the best combat unit in the game. I mean, they would pretty much kill, so up until now it was probably Daughters of Cain. And, I mean, Daughters of Cain have got an answer in a fight against them, because if you take the Sisters of Slaughter instead of the Witches, and just run them over, so you're 5 inches away, and just say, right, beginning of the combat phase, do whatever you want to do. I'm not within 3, so dance around, do whatever you want to do. Do your always strikes first.
To dance. It's 2019.
No, I'm telling the Ghoul King.
Oh, the Ghoul Kings to dance.
Your
Okay, good.
Or
right,
whatever you called it. So then you pile in your 6 and stab the kumquat in the head.
You call him a kumquat?
I've forgotten what it was supposed to be called.
A G-cart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a G-unit. You can buy it as a watch.
So 6-inch pile-in is obviously. So there's only a few things that have got that. But yeah, there's not. I mean, so they have got a 4-up save.
They have a 4-up save, and obviously an ethereal
and
gems.
About 14 wounds, something like that. Yeah, they're pretty scary.
I was like looking at my Chaos Dwarf list that I have been running, and then I was like, because normally I can rely on getting into a fight, and the wounds characteristic on my Kadai Fireborn. So like there's like 12 of them. They've got 4 wounds each. They have a 5-up unrendable save. So like Dudade, thanks for the bits. So like I was like I'm like I'll throw them into Marathi all day because I'll make a couple of those saves on those big damage dice and I'll be cool about it.
Yeah.
And it's got such a wound sink that I'm fine. But I was like, I don't think, especially the things like the mortal wounds, it's just like so many mortal wounds. I just don't know how to face off against them realistically. And I was like, maybe I could shoot at them, but like, I've got movement 4 dwarves with 16-inch guns, so they're pretty good. Yeah, shut up, man. Yeah, they're all right, but I rely on people moving towards me.
They're not really dwarves, are they?
They are dwarves. They're literally dwarves. They've got that keyword. They've got the keyword that says Dwarden.
No, they don't.
No. Angle says they're now called kumquats. That's the name of them now. Are you running a kumquat as a blisterkin? Yeah, I am. So anyway, they're really, really good. And I just wanted to like make sure we articulated how good they were for you guys playing. So like if you went and played at a tournament and you were like, a dragon. No, it's not a dragon. It will kill anything in the game.
Yeah, it's murder.
It's murder. It's. I will lose my unit. I think unless you do something to that. And again, Geminids. Like unless you do something to reduce that. So obviously in death you can do -to hit spells. Marathmongers are a good example. Geminids to make stuff -1 to hit. The Skaven Tide, which we'll talk about in a minute, being able to like drop stuff. Gloom Spite, being able to make stuff -1 to hit.
If you can stop them flying.
If you can stop them flying, all those things. So, Truthiness sounds wonderful for armies with no shooting. Like you can't. I don't think you can play against these with Iron Jaws, for example. And I don't mean that like in a defeatist way. I'm like Iron Jaws are like, oh fucking we're big lads, and they like run up and they're like, oh we're dead because and we haven't. I know we touched on it, but this is really key. If you kill one,
it kills you.
It can spend a command point and attack at its full unwounded profile back twice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter even when they're wounded. It's that the jaws still do the same thing.
Yeah. So I wanted to express its sheer volume because it was impressive over the weekend, but also devastating.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about some counters a little bit, which I think is interesting. Minuses here, I think, are the big one, and also I think board control will be the other big one.
If you're playing Iron Jaws, you just need Foot of Gork.
Foot of Gork and one really, really, really overly good dice. 4+, 4+, 4+. Why can they attack back twice when they get killed? So they spend a command point and it says you can immediately attack again. I think that's pretty certain, but you'll have to double check that. You should forget Iron Jaws have a special rule against big monsters, says Dave Fraser.
They do. Brutes. If brutes are ever allowed to fight against it, then yeah. But they'll never be allowed to fight against it. They'll be dead.
Okay. So it's only with a spell, thank you. So it's a spell. It's a spell that does the, not the command ability, it's the spell that gets the unit off. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that loads. Right. So I hope I've expressed that opinion strongly enough, because it's meant to just be, for you gaming, don't underestimate them. I don't think there's, maybe there's something, and I'd love to know if anyone can think of something that you can make units -to hit. I think that's probably the strongest way to deal with them. But I think the other way, and we saw Tom Maudsley do it so well with his Skaven, is board control and just shut down their ability to move places.
Yeah.
Like that game, if you want to go back and watch Tom versus Lee, I think that was an incredibly cool game. Both players playing really well, and like you seeing that interaction, especially the power of the endless spells. I thought it was wicked personally. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah. The endless spell did a load of work in that game, especially the Skaven vortex spell. Absolutely. Did loads of work. That's where all the work was from. Was the magic.
Was the magic, yeah. But like I think, and also, and this is key, and I might screenshot it and do like a deep dive tutorial on it. But Tom did something absolutely wicked with the endless spell, the kind of like the base plate one. It's not Skulltide, is it? It's Skaven Tide.
It's Vermintide.
Vermintide. So that got put. So what happened was the endless vortex went around Lee's Gulking on Terrorgeist. Then right in his deployment, in front of a build, like kind of like a building sort of thing, so a piece of terrain, which meant that they then couldn't fly, and then inside of it was the other end of the spell, which meant he couldn't fly over it, and it was just amazing to see, because then he couldn't go straight and go after that particular Verminlord that was on that objective, because it was 3 places of arcane power, and then he had to kind of like, instead of going beeline straight like a crow, he had to go sideways like a crab. I don't know why I've gone for an animal reference.
And he couldn't fly anyway. So.
No. But yeah, so you do have things, thank you, Agel. You've got things like Wrathmongers, Marathi, and I think board control, being able to shut them down, their movement early is going to be key.
Yeah.
Because they can, and if you can chaff, whatever they hit, they'll kill most of the time, but being able to chaff them up.
Yeah, you've got to rethink your chaff lines, but you've got to make sure, you've got to try and build lists with loads more chaff, and
but they do fly, and that's important as well.
Yeah.
To note.
Yeah, but they have got big bases as well. So,
and to break that down for what that means, they fly means they can fly over the units, and big boards, big bases means that actually it's a lot harder to do that because you've got to roll quite well to jump a screen with a charge.
Yeah.
Effectively, I know most of you know that. I'm not trying to teach that, okay? Because there might be someone's first go at a podcast. They'll be like, "Why is it big base matter?" Like, well, because you get to put more scenery on it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, for making your model look great. So yeah, I think that was the thing to talk about. I don't know if anything else impressed you about the Flesh Eater Courts on the tabletop.
I mean, obviously their summoning was quite cool. The endless spell, the Chalice, was great. I didn't see what the horse thing did. I did see it on one of the tables. But yeah, and then they're great. But they all sit around that piece of terrain at the beginning because they can use the terrain piece just to do their summoning without having to spend command points. And then they can save those command points for attacking.
And attacking twice.
Or whatever it is.
Because the Arc Regent is 200 points. He can put 200 points on the board, and he's a 2-cast wizard that's able to put D3 extra attacks on one of those big monsters. So just super impressive.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great model. It's a great it's a great war scroll. The model's great too, but it's also a great war scroll, and it's like super impactful. So I imagine you'll see one of them in most of those armies.
I would have thought so.
I would have thought so as well. Anyway, I was incredibly impressed by them, and honestly poses a problem I don't think I've ever had before. Like, I know loads of stuff. Like, eels are good, right? That unit of 9 eels on the charge, it's pretty sweet. Like, including their mortal wounds and everything else. You know, your evocators doing the charge, or your you see them very much, but your evocators on Dracoline, your Daughters of Cain, Witch Elves, a bunch of stuff. Like, when it hits stuff, it blends through them. Plague monks, but I don't think I've ever seen anything that does everything, because the mortal wounds in addition does everything, right? Like, you got a mortal wound save, doesn't matter. It's got rend. I've never seen anything that has that raw damage output, I don't think. And someone lost, some poor sweet man lost his Corn Dragon, which is 1,200 points, and he lost it to one AG cart, or a kumquat. He lost it to one kumquat in one round of combat, like, before he got to go. And I was like, oh, bless you. Because that's got to feel the worst, because you're like Corn.
Well, you've got a big dragon.
And you've also got a much bigger dragon. Like, and it's 3 times the points. And you would kind of say, well, because it outperforms that Corn Dragon in every way. So.
That Corn Dragon wants to fight, but it does not want to fight the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. Which is crazy to think that it's running away from a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist.
Yeah, you would. It's insane to think that Nagash would run. So the Lord of Death, 800 points, would run away from a model half its points. Now I know that they do different jobs. Like Nagash can just auto kill something, which is obviously super impactful. So maybe that is worth its points value. It's just a great conversation to have. Yeah. But I more wanted to point out to people that, like, a fairly simple build for those guys would be 2 monsters that will activate twice before you get to go. and that's work out how to do that with something in your army. Have you got a plan? You got a plan? Has anyone got a plan? You got a plan? Dave, please tell me a plan. I need a plan. Can you help me out?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. We talked about it, by the way, on the van home, and I was like, got a plan? It's like, not yet. We haven't got a plan. So that's, I think we've covered those guys fairly well. Let me just double check my notes. So then on Skaven, and also, how do you think they're going to change? How do you think that Flesh Eater Courts first? How do you think that's going to change current army builds? That's a question to you and the Twitch chat.
I think everybody's going to bring Skaven. Because I think Skaven are, in the rock, paper, scissors thing, I think the Skaven are a good rock to the Flesh Eater scissors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Because they have got lots of ranged output.
Good and mortal wound range output, right?
Yeah. And they've got fairly decent screens. Yeah. And they've got ways to just hamper stuff as well. So, and they got the mobility with those silly hole things that they dig around the place.
They do. I do think of the two, I think the Skaven, which we're talking about now, is the much stronger book. Because
it's more flexible.
It's more flexible, and also, and I think what's really important is it's got lots of decisions it can make. What we saw, what game was it where we saw? It must have been Lee's game against Tom, which I think was I was so happy we got to cover that. Tom played really well, Lee played really well, and it was a really good example of just how to do things. I thought, and I was blown away by both players, and I just loved the game. So if you get the opportunity to watch one of the games, that's the one I'd watch. Because what was really, really good about it was Tom had lots and lots of decisions to make, because he had 10 casting values. So he had 4 Vermin Lords and 10 and a Grey Seer. So he had 10 castings, 5 endless spells, and he's obviously got the warp holes as well. So he's just got loads of options, which I'd be like, I'm a little bit flummoxed by this volume of options, but it's a list I just guarantee want to play with because it's so fun. But it also means your opponent's got lots of mistakes that they can make.
Yep.
And Lee can only, in that situation with the Flesh Eater Courts, Lee could only commit his Skull King on Terrorgeist to one place or the other place. Whereas I think Tom could obfuscate what he was going to do on the tabletop so well. Even maybe to himself, because he's only had access to the book for a little while. So that's going to be fairly challenging, I think. And I think he did super good to be able to do that. So I was a fan of that game. But yeah, what impressed you about the Skaven?
Yeah, I mean, that particular list was, the neat trick was being able to skitter leap a Vermin Lord into a place, and then he would then have 2 spells from a different place on the board. So great for getting your magic caster into a great place.
Yes.
So it's
double skitter leap.
Well, yeah. So yeah, he did have double skitter leap, although he only had to use it with the one dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty sweet. The the Gnaw-hole's pretty good for the arcane.
Oh my god, they're so good. I'm literally, my brain's on fire with Skaven. It was so John Dale's list, which had the 6 Storm Fiends. And then he gave him more power, so reroll to hit and reroll to wound, gave him +1 to hit, and then he plays Nikos, he added +1 damage to every damage he did.
Yeah.
Just crazy. They were like, I will murder them. 6 of them then died to a kumquat in the game after, because they just melt anything. But
it was a mistake. They shouldn't have been in a fight with a
kumquat.
Yeah. They should have been shooting it. But yeah, I mean, and I've not actually. I don't think I've seen anybody use the Gnaw-hole for actually teleporting.
I think they threaten it, which is really good. Yeah.
They threaten with it, but then I don't think I've seen anybody go through it yet.
Oh, the lovely Mr. Tom Maudsley is actually in the chat right now. Hi, Tom. Thanks for being a gent over the weekend and being on the stream. I haven't seen. Well, we covered a couple of Skaven games. I think it was a threat, right? We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we took Tom's list as an example, he didn't have you saw sort of Min battle line, which obviously then became a cropper in the final game, and then John had a little bit more when it came to battle line, realistically, but he also still had like not lots to go through those warp holes, but maybe we'll see different builds as we go through.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of some Plague Monks going through there and getting the charge off, personally. I think they will be impactful at certain points, but the +1 is the most obvious. +1 to cast. It's +1 to cast and unbind, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's arcane.
It's arcane.
Yeah. 3 Vermin Lords is absolutely the better list, but that's not a fun story then, so I'll be sticking with 4, says Mords. So I think that, for me, I think the Skaven that I saw at the weekend, the power is the endless spells, the casting values, because they can get so much cast in. We saw JJ do the hilarious roll 3 dice on the Greyseer to get and
13,
and then kill his own Greyseer, which was just hilarious on the first turn. But I think he said that he felt that really helped him win the game. JJ, I think you're in the chat, so maybe you could tell us. But he got off the 100-point...
The Vortex, yeah.
Let's talk about that in case people aren't aware, because that's super big. What did you think of it?
So, I mean, it's 100 points, but I think it's worth 100 points. It's great. It kicks out loads of mortal wounds, because what it does is when you set it up on a 4-up, every unit within 6 of one of the pylons takes D3 mortal wounds, but that becomes a 3-up if it's within 2, and a 2-up if it's within 3. But then it kicks again at the end of each movement phase. So immediately that same turn, it will do it again. So it's a load of mortal wounds against a lot of armies. That's going to hurt. Like elite armies, we saw it really go to work on the Stormcast army in the first game.
He was such a sweet man. He was like, "Oh, this sucks."
Yeah, it sucks. And I mean, if you're a Doomspite player and that goes off, and your heroes are all within range, it's a good chance you'll lose them all that turn.
Yes.
So, which is a nightmare for them. So anything like that, your Demon Smiths, my Rune Lords, that sort of stuff, they would not like that at all.
So. No, so I was initially I was like, do you know what? I'm going to break up my 75 glaives into 7 units of 10, because then against things that compile and attack twice, instead of just losing the 30, I can lose 10, then I can lose 10, and I'm all right. I'm in a better position there. But now, with that spell in effect, and obviously there's also the Stormcast spell, the Comet, that does something fairly similar, so it's AoE damage. We haven't really seen that volume of AoE damage, though, since Lord Croak. Like, he's got some pretty solid AoE damage. And I'm like, it's just grim.
Yeah, it really puts a stop on building MSU armies.
Yeah.
And that hurts things like Stormcast, which are effectively MSU armies, really.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they really struggle from not being able to have chaff, and I think also one of the key elements of potentially shutting down some of those is having chaff. Yeah. But the Greyseer's ability to roll 3d6, get off a spell with +1 to cast, makes them so reliable that I think that you almost have to go down the other route of having an Incanter for an auto unbind. And you need to put them on the front line and then be like, okay, you're going to want to be 30 inches away from that, because you can cast the Lightning Vortex at 25 inches, the first pylon. Then you measure 7, and it is worth FAQing whether or not it's wholly within 7 or within 7.
Because it's exactly 7, but exactly what is...
are you measuring? So that's a great question. And then it affects everything within 6, so it's 25 inches plus 7 plus 6, 13, so 38 inches is its effective range, which is just devastating.
Yeah.
So I think the further you can push back that wizard, or have pluses to dispel, which is super rare to find as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can find something that's got an auto unbind endless spell. You're going to need that if you're going to play Skaven.
Yeah, there's that artifact from the Realm of Life. I think it's going to see a bit of board time now. I think it's called the Verdant Mantle or something like that. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's thanks very much.
Yeah. So the other thing it does obviously is it stops things flying.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, it does. Yeah, stops things flying within
Running or
running or flying.
Running. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't run and you can't fly. So yeah, that's just crippling to some.
I personally think that alone, that's why we've approached it in this way. That alone and its existence is probably going to help shut down the flesh-eater court dragons.
Yeah.
Because it just limits them so much. Even though they can heal themselves and there's a bunch of stuff that they can do, I think the existence of that potentially makes the flesh-eater court dragons just far less popular. But I also don't. You then kind of go, okay, cool. Maybe we've dealt with that. I don't really know how to deal with the spell because I didn't know how to deal with the dragon, and now I'm like, that fucking spell. So I'm hoping the Khorne book's got like a lot of auto unbinds in it, because Khorne hates magic.
Yeah.
So then that would be nice if that comes through. How do you feel about that spell, like with your Gloomspite army?
So yes, it's not good for my army, like I said, because the all the heroes having such a small amount of wounds. So yeah, and obviously anything that slows you down is a pain. Yes.
Yeah, that's especially when the game's so fast.
Yeah.
Like, which is just Mimrodon Banshees from I think it could be cool. The
Nighthorn.
Thank you so much. I don't know what's happened there. Yeah, Speckles would be pretty good at being able to unbind. It's not the question whether or not you can unbind at range, although Seraphon can, and that's cool. It's having the capacity to do it, like on a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, because it's cast on an 8.
Yeah.
So if they've got it off, so it's quite hard for them to get off. But obviously they're 100% of the time will be on Arcane because they carry Arcane with them. So effectively it's only cast on a 7 for them.
On 3d6, or from a scry.
3d6 you choose the best 2.
Or you're re-rolling it if you've got a scryer wizard.
Yeah. You can burn a... Yeah. So, yeah, they've got plenty of ways to make that pretty... pretty much the odds are in their favour to get that off. And then, so now for you to dispel it so that it doesn't affect you in your movement phase is quite hard because it's on an 8 and there's not many ways you can modify that.
No. No, it's not. So I think that's... so Captain Andrew is saying, on average, 3d6 plus 2 can't be beat. Because that would be 13, which is pretty scaven. Because 3d6 pick the highest is 2d6 pick the highest is 9. Plus 2 is 11. No, it's 11, not 13. Because it's 9 on average. Whatever. I think it's pretty cool. I liked it. Like, I don't know what to do against it. I feel like both of those two books are a power level above my Legion of Asgore army. But I don't know what to do about it. But, like, I liked them. I was like, this is cool.
Just play Skaven.
I mean, Games Workshop will be over the moon about that. They're like, yeah, like, you're going to want to buy these books. And I do. I do want to buy the Skaven. And I do want to put the Endless Spells in. But do I think that they're, like, way stronger than a lot of the other army books? I think maybe there might be some answers, though. Like, in the other army books, potentially. And there might be some hard counters.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see, like you say, when Khorne pitches up, because you would think there's going to be some
unbinds and shit,
strong anti-magic.
I would hope so, because they didn't get as much anti-magic as I would have liked before.
Yeah. Also, you would think they're going to be fast and pretty deadly as well in a fight. So,
yeah, the guys in the chat are talking about Mimrodon Banshees, so that's an idea, which is quite fun. There's also the Maelstrom as well, the endless spell, and it's quite cheap. And it casts at quite a distance, so if your opponent does let you go first, you could throw that into their army, you could attempt an unbind, or if they've tried to sit back really far away, then the Maelstrom could attempt to unbind. The problem is with something like Tom's list, is it has 10 casts and 10 unbinds, with bonuses to unbind, so he'll probably unbind that endless spell.
Yeah.
I think the thing that you've hit on is the fact that it's an 8 to cast the Vortex, and we saw it cast almost all the time on the first turn. I would say that's maybe the only real negative about it, is that a lot of people are going to want to use it the first turn, and probably that's the right decision, but maybe you could sit back a little bit so it doesn't hamper all of your army. but it will control the side of the board so
Yeah,
massively.
exactly, because it's at the end of the movement phase. So then, if he puts it onto or near an objective, or where on the way to an objective, then you've got to move into its effect. So
it's like that scene in the movie where the giant waves come in and he's just like, "Oh no, we're going at it, boys. We're going in." I liked it. Anyway, I like it. I think.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they pretty much cast it whenever they wanted to. They had problems trying to dispel it when they wanted it to put it somewhere else.
Yeah,
because again, nobody's got the modifiers for the dispelling.
No. So really interesting this game, and then the warp lightning cannons are mental.
Yep, they're over the top.
They
bananas.
are crazy over the top, and so it just seemed so reliable. Or maybe those are just the games that we saw. Like Nikos just lost lost 3 Razordons at range, 11 mortal wounds, which would do like loads of stuff. Like we saw like ballistas, which are they're 8 wounds each. I think ballistas, maybe 7. 7, and they were just getting like fucking picked off like that. It was going out of fashion, and it was just the output was crazy. Nick was running around with 30 globadiers, 15 globadiers.
Yeah, big block of globadiers.
Yeah, and
acolytes,
yeah. And they were just murdering,
hand grenading people,
hand grenading the world to death. They were like, "Fuck you, fuck you." So that was funny. Yeah, just seemed. I really like John Dale's 6 Storm Fiends. That was really, really great. I like the double Skit Elite because that's just more movement, and that reminds me of like Seraphon. So it feels like they can do that Seraphon list where it's more evasive, and they've got the warp holes on top. So if you're talking about mobility, they've got double Skit Elite, and they've got all of the warp holes as well. They can just move around and not be where you want them to be, which is super rat-like. I love it. But it's
they're pretty quick anyway. They're movement 6. They get +2 to run. They're normal clan rats. So that's so basically movement 8.
Also, First Brain Twig says he was running 30 of them. Yeah, and there were £7.20 each. So do the math there if you want. And then Captain Andrew says,
plumber, so that would explain.
Yeah, Captain Andrew says Acolyte run and shoot is gross. And then Connery says it's fine, boys. I'm 1,200 out of 2,000 points painted for my Bobo Wanderers. I'll break this meta wide open. Good. Yeah. So just let me just double check my notes and make sure we've covered everything. So what do we think the Skaven weakness is? That's the follow-up question. I know I always ask you the question. You should come prepared with questions because then you won't be put in the spot all the time.
Keeps asking me shit. I guess they are still fairly fragile at the end of the day. It's just getting to grips with them. The tankiest thing is the Warpseer dude.
Yes.
So he's quite a tanky dude. The rest of them, there's not great armor saves. I mean, all the heroes have got the 5. Well, all the Master Clan heroes have got that 5-up ignore, which is a pain. But
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think that interestingly, like I think Gary here in the chat saying, I think being able to outdrop, I would say that's actually probably the strength. And when we get on to talk about Beasts of Chaos in a minute, that's now going to be like a clear, I think. Actually keep them because then you're not fiddling with the microphone, so I'm okay with it. If anyone would like to donate Nathan like a squishy toy for him to squeeze while he's on the air, that would be great.
2.
I think being able to outdrop them is going to be quite important, especially if you don't want the spell to go off against you. You could just be like, cool, I'll just run somewhere else first.
If you can Alpha Strike them, happy days.
Yeah, I agree. And also, skill shots, that's a good point. If you were to take the Midnight Cloak, the Cloak of Midnight, or whatever it's called, from, I probably should know the name, for Idneth Deepkin, and just run a unit forward, and just go, cool, I'll activate this, you can't shoot my army for a turn.
Yeah, there is the tattered cloak or something like that that does the same thing in the general artifacts.
So there you go, same sort of situation.
Yeah.
So
It's only a shooting phase, but that's what.
that's exactly what you want. You want to protect against shooting. But I think that there's also combat builds in there as well. Plague monks are in there, and they're devastating. I don't want to face against them. They've got good combat options. It feels like ranged and spells, which is more ranged, are their power.
Yeah, you want to alpha them before they get the command ability up, where they start getting immune to battle shock and just.
So that comes from the Verminal Corruptor or a bunch of other places. But yeah, that's really
bell.
good.
I mean, the bell's got it automatically.
Yeah. So I think weaknesses is probably you can outnumber them all the time because they've got the capacity to be a horde army.
Yeah.
But I think often that they won't pick the horde option because, like, I think there'll be a lot of corruptors. They'll be spending 100 points on that spell at least. There'll be warp seers. There'll be thank walls. There'll be warp lightning cannons, which is big points investments in single places. Which is why I actually think that the Flesh Eater Courts do quite well against them, is because they just go after the big pieces. And sometimes they pretty much have to commit the big pieces depending on what the scenario is. Especially if there's a scenario with characters have to move on to objectives, etc. I think that's quite good, personally. But we'll see. I ran 160 monks this weekend, says Captain Andrew, and I think he kicked ass. And Elron Gatto says, could it be that people are freaking out what's given FUC? It's not freaking out. I think just a fair review. Just be like, okay, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, they're good.
So they're good.
I would acknowledge that they're good.
They're good. I'd say that they're in the top tier of winning, but I would also argue that most armies are in that kind of cloud. That cloud of armies. I think that they are potentially. I think that they're stronger than. Do you think? This is a question to you. Do you think that they're stronger than the books of last year? That's the question.
Yeah, I reckon they're stronger than them.
I would agree. I think they're. Do you think they're stronger than the Gloomspite Gits book?
Yes.
You think? Okay. Well, I think that they feel stronger now than the other books. I feel like they pose problems that other books don't pose, which to me is like the key element, right?
I think you can write some Gloomspite lists that give them a headache.
The Wargaming Dad says, as a core player, this is good signs for our new book. I would hold on to those feelings. I would manage your expectations and just be like, okay, it'll be cool if it's good. So what does the Twitch chat do you think? Do you think that they're stronger? Colonel Cabby says yes. Which I think is fair. I think it's fair. I think it's a fair review that they're stronger but that's our opinions.
I mean, Daughters of Cain book was the strongest book maybe from last year.
It was?
And
based on... it was the strongest played.
Yeah.
Which is...
And probably the same power level, I reckon, still.
Yeah.
Daughters can probably handle some of those especially... Yeah. Daughters. I think Ideneth has still got... They're still a book that's really good.
I think the Ideneth book is really good. Okay, so let me just double check on my notes. I think we've smashed that. Do we think there are different... for both armies, question, do we think there are different builds out there than the ones that we saw this weekend?
Yes, there are.
Yes, there are. I agree with that.
I mean, there's so many in the Skaven book, but I do think there's some other Flesh Eater Courts. So I think... So we saw the winning list was the Beast of Chaos list.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to Beast of Chaos.
But I think that there's Flesh Eater Courts lists that are of similar ilk.
Okay, cool. I would say that, I agree that I think there's different Flesh Eater Court builds, which I think is cool. From such a low kit. There's not very many of the kits. And I think the Skaven book is potentially, in my opinion, I would have said what would I have said up until now? I'd have said up until now that maybe the Nurgle book or maybe the Tzeentch book were the two most, were the books you could buy and be like, I can just keep buying models for this army and adding stuff in and it's going to be really fun. For me, I think now Skaven have picked that bracket. They're like, you can be like, cool, I'm going to run all the Vermin Lords. Cool, I'm going to take other spells. And then, while you're doing that, you're painting up, a unit of Storm Vermin.
Pestilence.
Yeah, and then you paint up some Plague Monks.
Scryer or whatever.
Or you paint up loads of, you take out a small loan and you go and buy Nick's 30 Globadier army, and then you go do that. I just think it's got lots of, lots of teeth.
Very good, very good.
But I do think that that's the more fun army, and potentially now as a battle tome, the most fun army to go out there and play with. But I'm biased because, as stated, I'm super excited by the book, and I actually think it seems the most tactically innovative. As in, you get to make a lot of decisions, which is cool. Also means you make a lot of mistakes. So I think someone in the chat earlier was saying that they think there'll be a high variance in the win rate. So some people will win tournaments, and then some people just get smashed all weekend. Yeah, and I think that's true.
Come on, Speckles.
Come on, Speckles. Yeah. And then Lofthammer puts, I won twice with Rats against Daughters of Cain. So there's Paul Haley making sure Daughters of Cain are getting represented. There's a scaling bill with 30 acolytes in. Tyler Jacobs, can we find the list anywhere? No, but we will do a write-up of some of the lists. But some of those lists were already put on AOS Shorts by the wonderful and gorgeous sex robot from the future, Mr. Dan Shorts. So you can check some out on there. All right, cool. Do we think there's different builds out there? We covered it. Finally, though, right? Finally, there's two conversations. Not finally, but now we move on to Beasts of Chaos, who, spoilers, won the event. Yeah. So going into Game 5, there were two Beasts of Chaos players. There's the current Age of Sigmar English master outside of London, Mr. Dan Bradshaw, versus Tom Maudsley, who we saw play previously, the ETC team captain for England, no less, versus... so they played, and then there was also Mr. Ben Johnson. I think his job title is AOS game developer, but that might be wrong. And he played against Mark Wildman with the mirror, exactly the same Beast of Chaos list.
What's Mark Wildman's job title?
Oh, Over Tyrant was his last job title because he got quite chubby. But I don't really want to. I don't really want to bring it up. And then Ben was playing with Flesh Eater Corpse. When he took two. He took two Kumquats and he took two Terrorgeists in his list. There's some more stuff as well, and I'm sure you can find that on Twitter. Or we'll try and grab it for you and put it in the show notes.
Yeah, right. There were four monsters.
There were four monsters. Yeah, and then. But what do you think about a list? This is what's really interesting. How do you feel about two Beasts of Chaos lists that are identical, going 4-0 going into that? What did you think?
Obviously a strong list.
Obviously a strong list.
Yeah. So Dan's yet to lose with that list, and basically it's because of its mobility and its just huge wound sinks, really. And obviously it can pack a bit of a punch when it gets to wherever it's going.
Yes, absolutely. What's really nice is that, well, it's given me the ability to design a new term. So I think it plays in a way. So some traditional wargaming terms are things like hammer and anvil. Yeah, it's pretty traditional term. I was in a conversation with Mark and Dan while they were designing this list a few months ago, and we talked it through. And effectively, it's a swamp list, or that's basically what it does. So what it does is it puts 30 Zangor and 2 units of 9 Enlightened on your lines turn 1, because the Zangor move, the Enlightened move a movement 9, and the Zangor are pretty fast as well. And then they move more forward. They sit on outside your line. They go, cool, you probably can't kill this. I win the game. Now, which is really similar to, so I would say this is kind of a Dan TM, because Dan did run a really similar list, but with 90 Zangor in AOS 1. Yeah. Sorry, 80 Zangor, I think it was. I think it was 2 units of 30 and a unit of 20, when Zangor were arguably even better. And what he would do is, that was in the Tzeentch army, and he would just auto-run the army and then charge with the whole thing. Because I don't know if he could run and charge, but he would definitely move them forward, and then he would use the Tzeentch Destiny dice to make a 12-inch charge, effectively every time. And then that's what he ended up going 4-1 and beating the famous Mr. Bill Sousa, the Ghoul King himself, at one of the GT heats with that exact list. So yeah, that's exactly what it does. It just takes the whole army and it just moves it forward and it just sits in front of you, and that's how it works. So it just swamps you, and then you have to try and fight out of that.
It's about 200 wounds, and it can pretty much be in your deployment anywhere. The Enlightened fight, and the Zangor, pretty decent in a fight, And then obviously he's got loads of summoning if he needs a few extra more wounds.
Yeah, the Enlightened are actually incredible because they reroll to hit and reroll to wound if anything has activated near them, which is quite key. So obviously you could be quite sensible and just get one in combat, keep the others 3 inches away, and then if your opponent piles in against you, you're then going to pile in everything. You might only lose one. You might not lose any of them. There's 4 wounds in each one of those 9 Zangor, so you've got 36 wounds in those guys. And then, the Enlightened, and they move 19 inches. It's just devastating, realistically. So it's really cool. It's really cool as a list design in what it does. In that it just floods the board. We saw a build kind of like that with Fire Slayers in the old days.
Yeah.
But what they would do is not flood the board. They wouldn't flood you as a list. What they would do is they would just flood the objectives and then just out-survive you or try to out-survive you. But this is what this does the same, I think. What did you think of the list, seeing it in action? And I know you've actually played against it, so...
Yeah, it's quite impressive what it does, because it does it really well. It doesn't, when you're playing against it, doesn't feel like it's like gimmicky or anything like that. But that's what it is. That's its gimmick, is super fast.
Not feeling like a gimmick also.
And loads of wounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and also what's really interesting is you get to have a little bit of a punch at it, but then so you're like, yeah, I've hit them, and then you don't really kill them, and then they're like, you've made me stronger, and then you get to reroll to hits and reroll to wound. So I think that that's just, and the mobility is the key bit, right? Because we talked about this on the show time and time again. The faster you are, the better it is, and movement 19 before you charge with a flying unit is a little abhorrent. In my opinion, being a movement 4 army base most of the time, or even my fastest unit, my Kadai, are their movement 8 with a run roll on top.
Yeah.
What's up?
9.
Oh, okay. With a run on top, so it's a little bit. I don't know. I find them tough. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. It's just I mean, again, my other army is movement 4 as well, so it's sad. Sad times. No, it is crazy how fast they move. The movement stuff has got out of hand sometimes.
Yeah, I think potentially that's an example of the movement being too fast in the game. And so the big question is how would you defend against it? Because actually, no one's actually got the capacity to defend against it at the minute. It's won every game that it's played, with the exception. To follow up, the 2 mirror lists, Dan won with his and then took the event out, so congratulations. But then Mark, against Ben, didn't take the scenario out. So he didn't win with that list against Flesh Eater Courts. And Flesh Eater Courts went 5-0. So the new book was played and won 5 games in a row. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so so I saw... Obviously, I watched both games, pretty much bits and pieces, but most of the game. I watched all of Dan's game.
I read the army list, so they called the game.
He had less drops than Tom, more bodies, just flooded the objectives, and it was the scenario where you could just burn the objectives.
Yeah.
And then he burnt the objectives and won the game before Tom got a chance to move anything. But the other game, the Terrorgeists had the drop on the Zangor.
So they had less drops.
Yeah, and they just punched the hell out of all of the Zangor and Ungor and Enlightened before they could move.
Yeah. So they went forward and they deleted. The whole army.
Well, not the whole army, but enough of the army for it to become ineffective, and then also cast. That's what the other spell is. It's that fence.
Yeah.
Half move or something. Yeah, that's great on Enlightened. That's
great on
way
Enlightened.
to slow them down.
I think the key element is the dragon, like we've just talked about there, with its sheer volume of output. As said, so he got to attack with 2 dragons twice.
Yeah.
Before Mark could return fire.
That's right. And then so Mark obviously had made a mistake. So he's got the big unit of 40 Ungor. But then his Enlightened were like 2.5 inches behind them because he was a little bit greedy. He wanted to be able to pile in and attack the dragons, but then the dragons were able to reach over and bite them with their 3-inch bites.
Yep.
So it was a lot of bites, killing, and virtually killed all the enlightened down to one in the one block of 9, and then all the rest of the attacks going into the Ungor pretty much wiped them out. So yeah.
Wow. That's yeah.
And then I think one of the other dragons was into the Zangor, just putting them in place, and then he could bring the rest of his army around to bear.
Yeah, done. So yeah, like we said, so if two dragons attack twice, that's 1,600 points being used. It's why gun lines are so strong, right? Because if you play with a gun line and all of your stuff is shooting, and in the first turn you can make. You okay?
Just gonna go drink.
Okay. So I'll do you want some water? There you go. Easy peasy. Yeah, if you can bring all of your gun line to effect in a game on the first turn, 2,000 points shooting at you, it's great. But what he's actually doing is he's committing only 800 points in 2 dragons, but he's doing 1,600 points worth of output, which is just. I mean, I would like every one of my units to always fight twice, or shoot twice. Shoot twice would also be sweet, whatever the situation. But it's pretty crazy, I think, realistically. And so yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts about that.
Yeah.
So then down 1, which is cool, and Beast of Chaos get a win on the charts, which is great for him. He also won Best Sports and tied with Nick Thompson, and then they had a dice roll off, which was sweet. And then he ended up dropping his trophy when he picked his award up, which was just very Dan and very funny, which is fun. And he also got to his close friend Mark. He gets to bully him about the fact that he's the better Beast of Chaos player all the time.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Yeah,
so
they both pretty much developed that list together, and so
yeah, it's a team list.
Yeah. So now
I think Mark says he developed it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, and Dan says he developed it.
Yeah, it's a toughie, right? Yeah, it's a toughie. And also in second place, Ben with the Flesh Eater Court, showing that they can do really well. If you'd like to know what my feelings are about someone with such advanced knowledge going to tournament a week before, I'd encourage you to go listen to the show that we did last week, which I think we covered it quite fairly. I think that was I think we did a good show on that. Definitely shows that the army is really strong, which is good. I'd probably encourage both tournaments. And just to recap last week, I probably encourage both tournaments to always have a cut-off point. But we talked about this for a long time in the van on the way back, right? I'd encourage tournaments to have a cut-off point a couple of weeks before so that everyone couldn't play with a new book. But that would mean that it's more professional like sport, and I don't think that that's what events are like. I think they're more fun, like a hobby. And I think that's your feelings, but I don't want to speak for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ideally, if you're going to make it like more competitive, fairer, then you would just say new books can't be used if they're like newer than 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something like that. Give everybody a chance at least to have a look through. But people are like, new stuff, we want to see the new stuff, we want to play with the new stuff.
Agreed.
And so you can't argue with that, and so that just shows us this, there's the hobby side as well as the competitive side, and people will always want to see the new stuff, the new shiny stuff. So straight away, as soon as they can. So
yeah, I personally would. I would have conversations in your groups about how you feel about that. For me, this is just a personal opinion. Yeah, therefore not like I'm not encouraging anyone to take this. And I did say publicly that I don't think that I'd feel comfortable playing someone with advanced knowledge like that, especially an employee. Playtesters, I think, is a different conversation if you listened to our show last week. But I think especially an employee with months of advanced knowledge and the ability to playtest themselves for a long time, I would feel that would be an unfair advantage. So were I to go to a tournament where they hadn't put a cut-off point on lists, I would be aware that might be the environment that I'm going into, because Games Workshop themselves don't police their own employees like other game companies do. So I would be aware of that. And then if I was to get to the tabletop, maybe I'd play them, maybe I'd not, but I would feel that would not be, I think it would be an unfair advantage that they would have over me in that environment, personally. That's my feelings. But again, I'm not encouraging everyone to feel the same. It's just how I feel. And
I mean, they would have, I would go into that game knowing that they have an advantage over me, but I'll play that game.
Well, and that's what we talked about in the van. Actually, that's the other thing as well. You made a great point in the van. You were like, actually, imagine if you beat that person.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fucking cooler, right? In this situation, though,
yeah.
just to reiterate, no one beat this person.
Yeah.
So that's a key point.
Yeah. If they beat me, it's not. They can't claim it as it's a bit of a hollow victory, isn't it, really? But if I beat them, it just makes my victory all that much better.
Cheers. So are we encouraging people to take the challenge?
Yeah. It's
all right,
a challenge,
done.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I personally think I think that could be right, and I think that was the only good argument that I actually heard in response. I was like, yeah, take the challenge. I'm like, oh wait, you've just activated my fuck you button. Yeah. Which I'm really excited about. So I think that actually that's a really fair point. But the tournament came down to soft scores. Came down to favourite game votes, and Dan got 4.
That's the way it should be.
It's the way it should be. Good. Anyway, but we have to now talk about the scenario, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to explain to people what happened?
So it's called Better Part of Valor. Basically, you can burn objectives if you have more models within 6 than your opponent. And you score a number of points depending on how long you've held the objective.
Yep.
But a certain amount of armies can swamp or flood the board, and they can nick the objectives from under their opponent's feet. Especially if they deploy badly, and burn all of their opponent's objectives and all of their own before the opponent has had a chance to move, which we saw on the top table.
Yeah, it's a super badly designed mission. Because what happened is in not this General's Handbook, but the General's Handbook before, exactly the same mission existed. Exactly the same thing happened, made famous by Mr. Danford, who would just tell you that you'd lost when you got to the table. He'd go, this is a murder host, and what I'll do is I'll go here, and you're dead now, and I win the game. And he'd explain it very nicely, and everyone would go, I hadn't planned for that. Now, a couple of things to talk about. The first thing we'll talk about is inclusion in the pack. So I spoke to AD, and I said, how come it was included in the pack? And he said he felt like it gave a good, fair balance to the list, to the other missions in the pack. And he quoted Tom and saying, and so if you go back and watch Game 5, Tom lost that game just at the deployment. And Tom had said, I hadn't read the pack. Yeah, had I known that was in there, I'd have potentially chosen different lists with more bodies so that I wouldn't have been able to get autoed on the first turn. Right? It does mean that some builds mean that they struggle a little bit anyway, right? So some armies, like Stormcast, for instance, they can't put lots and lots of bodies on the board. So what do you think, about the scenario being in the pack? So, sweet, the AD's given us a response, which is cool, and then also, and then Tom's also given us a response about losing to it. He was pretty cool about it. He was like, "Oh, had I known, I'd have changed up my list beforehand."
I think so. There is the other scenario. Is it called Total Conquest?
Total Conquest is the squiggly line.
No,
so you got
it's the one with the burning one. What was it called?
Better Part of Valor and...
Anyway, that one. I think that one, because you can only start burning from the second turn.
Oh, sorry, I want to clarify this. Maud says, so this is Tom. He said, I read the pack, I just made the decision not to bother adjusting for it. And hope that round 5 matchup be in my favour, which I think is that's also another solid tactic, right?
Yeah. Well,
Scorched Earth is
it. Scorched Earth. That's yeah. So I think that one's better just because it doesn't happen on the first turn, and you can then play a better. You can deploy deeper, knowing that if your opponent floods the board, you at least can go forward and have a crack at it.
Yeah.
Or if they give you the first turn, then you can push yourself right forward so that they can't jump over you into your objectives. Then at least you can start working a way through their army. But it does favour fast horde armies. So
weirdly Nurgle.
Yeah, Nurgles. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. So there's a couple of things to say about it. First off, can you plan to stop it? Yeah, you could take units like Shadow Warriors who can move up on the first turn, or 3 gold archers. Those do that. I think ungold raiders do it too. You can move them forward. You can just take lots of hordes, right, which means you can swamp those objectives, which is good.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So there are things you can do to mitigate potentially losing it. But I would argue that
quite often it turns your army around, and you have to use your. So normally you would be screening your big things with your little things, but in this one you really want to be screening your little things because they're normally the more numerous things with your big things. So you just want to put. I've got a warp lightning cannon. Put it in front, sideways. I've got
all the fellas behind.
Yeah. So yeah. But it does mean that you're giving away all the valuable pieces of your army.
And also it impacts low mobility armies because their ability to go there, which I think is a toughie. Realistically, Dudade is asking how long it would take my dwarves to get over there. Nathan, how long does it take your dwarves to get over there?
All day.
Oh, fucking days. Come on. So yeah, it's definitely not a Dwarden's turn 1 army. Or maybe Caradron, actually. I think, but the follow-up question, or the follow-up kind of conversation, I think, so there are things you can do to protect against it in your list building if you know it's going to be in a list, if you know it's going to be at a tournament. I think probably a couple of questions to ask are, number 1, do you think it should be put in tournament packs at all? Number 2, because that's been kind of a consensus, kind of a general conversation today, because I think it's poorly designed. I think, as admission, what should happen is you shouldn't be able to burn anything in the first turn, in my opinion. Oh, you can also take 1-drop armies, so you can choose whether or not your opponent's going to get to come and try. As long as your opponent doesn't have a 1-drop army, and you have to dice roll. So you can, like we said, you can build a 1-drop army. But do you think? I think you shouldn't be able to burn it in the second turn. But currently, we can't change the rules at the start.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's loads of different ways they could change it so that.
But wouldn't you just throw it out? Because there are.
Yeah, at the moment, it doesn't look like. It just creates too many bad games, so
yeah.
Probably don't want to be playing that one. If you want to play that style of game, then play the Scorched Earth one.
Yeah, I would.
Because you've got that other mission there. It's slightly more balanced, so go with that one.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a show next week. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of all of the battle plans, and we're going to kind of prioritize them and section them out. I think. Well, that's my plan to do that anyway, and you can just come along and call me a knob if you want.
Knob.
But I personally think you could just leave it out of match play events. But, and this is what's key and really cool. I like this. I'm going to say this now. There are 20 match play battle plans. I like that. Yeah, everyone keeps saying there's 17, there's 20. Right? Well, there's 18, there's not, there's 20. Because there's 2 inside Malign Sorcery. So, I don't know if you know that, but there are. Yeah.
What are they?
Huh?
What are they?
What are they called? It's a great question. Find out next week. But I think what's important to talk about is that there's a huge breadth. Now, you say you could design an all-comers list, and like Tom just put there, Tom was like, I knew it was in the battle plan, I just hoped I wouldn't be facing a Horde army that could do that to me on the first turn. So you can play that kind of like dodging game, and I know with my Legion of Asgore that I've got my ugly Bull Centaur Torok, whose specific job is to have an artifact be beyond movement 4 so that I can sometimes get near an objective in things like 3 places of arcane power and stuff like that, because that's his job, or relocation orb or something that requires an artifact or a wizard. Apart from that, I've got movement 4 wizards. That's all I got. So I've designed a unit inside my army to do that, but my preference would be, I think, if tournaments released what 5 battle plans you were going to play with. I think that would be my preference. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess most people would like to know the battle plans beforehand so that they can plan for it. But you should really build an army that can play all 20 battle plans.
That's the point. That's impossible. Yeah, that's impossible.
But then, if they choose 5 out of them, then probably those 5 will be as varied as you can get.
But they might not be varied. You might get
all the same.
Yeah, you might get
knife
the same.
to the heart, and
taken hold, and then also you're going to play 3 places of arcane power and also 3 places of power
and duality
of death. There you go. I'm running that tournament. Yeah. Are you coming? Twitch chat. Are you buying a ticket to that tournament, Nathan?
No,
you buy?
No.
Okay, but if I rolled them randomly, that's what I could get, right?
Yeah, so it's better if they choose.
So it's already better if they choose.
Most of the
time. So why don't you just tell me?
Yeah, well, they do most of the time, and most of the time they'll choose the widest variety anyway. So you still have to build the army that will play any of them as good as you can.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's true. I think what you actually do is you tailor your list to the 5 battle plans you're going to be playing that weekend. If you want to give yourself the best opportunity to win, that's not your purpose, and you want to go and have a great weekend, and you want to take the models you want, then you just don't give a fuck anyway.
4 giants.
You take 4 giants all day long. But I think that there should be the capacity and opportunity to know well ahead of time, which was available for Sheffield.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Right. And I would say that I would encourage people to.
And there were a wide variety of things. So if they had swapped Scorched Earth for that, I mean, then you would have to write a list that would play Scorched Earth or
like at the Warhammer World Heats this weekend. I'm pretty certain they haven't announced the scenarios.
Yeah. And then but the variety, like at Sheffield Slaughter, there were a variety of all the different types of things, pretty much. Except was there the take and hold knife to heart one? No. So yeah, but other than that, I mean, so you have to have. So if you write a list to play all of those 5 different types of scenario, it's basically an all-comers list, really. Yeah. Or a swamp list, because a swamp list wins every game.
Swamp list wins every game. Congratulations, boys.
Unless you're played by Mark Wild.
So what we're saying is there's a very specific swamp list by Beast of Chaos that will win every game possible.
Well, yeah, it's up to you to. Well, I bet some of the other factions can get close, and I have a feeling the Flesh Eater Courts one is not far off.
The swamp list.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, I agree. Swamp. Also cool that Beastmen have come out of the swamp. Beastmen, I reckon, live swampy areas.
Yeah, only the Zinch one.
What's really cool is if you go back, if you want to hear a bit of like confirmation, which I'm quite chuffed with, if you go back and listen to the Beast of Chaos review that me and Nathan did, we just called it Battletome Zangor, and now that's come to fruition. So that's, I guess, cool. Am I okay with the result? Maybe. I don't know. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Still cave spawn.
Yeah, goat swamp, cave spawn all day. So you wouldn't have it taken out of? Would you have it taken out of the selection of plans? Would you say we only have 19 match play plans as opposed to 20?
Yeah. Oh, after the weekend, definitely. Oh, I mean, but it's happened before. We've seen that before.
You're quoting Battlestar Galactica to me.
Am I?
Yeah. All this has happened before, and all this is happening again.
No, but I mean, I have seen it happen before, but sometimes that's just because the person is deployed badly. If they had deployed differently, the game would have lasted at least a couple of turns. But I don't know if Tom could have deployed differently. I don't know if he could have screened a couple of the things just with his Vermin Lords and the Warp Lightning Cannon instead of building the triangles. If he just built a wall of Vermin Lords and Warp Lightning Cannons, that's the only thing I could have thought of that he could have done differently.
Yeah, but I thought about that this morning, but then he would have just lost all of the Vermin Lords and then the Warp Lightning Cannon. And while, yes, he would have protected the 2 units, because he still would have lost the one on the right.
Well, and also if he had not put a unit on the other one, because there's nothing to charge then.
No, but he still gets close enough because it's 19. They move 19 before they run. So if there wasn't anything on there, he could just run onto the objective and still burn it. So even if there weren't any, he still claims the 3 at the back, the one on the right, and loses all his Vermin Lords in the middle.
If you don't put anything, you just give that one away and just concentrate on the other 2.
And he loses 2 Vermin Lords. Well, he loses all 4 Vermin Lords.
You don't lose all 4 because he only lost 1 in that fight on the right, and they were both being attacked.
Okay.
Especially if you use your Warp Lightning Cannon as well.
I just think he loses so much before he gets to go.
Yeah, you do, but then it makes it a fight, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, okay.
But yeah.
Banana Timmy says, I love the last scenario at Sheffield. I also won it. This may or may not have influenced my decision. Which I think is super fair.
Yeah, but he had the crazy squigs everywhere in your face.
Just being
They
squigs.
would love that one. They'd be like, take it all, burn it, burn it.
Yeah, long story short, I think you probably remove that from battle plans. From tournaments. I think that seems like the healthiest choice for TOs, realistically. But also it was in the pack, so prep for it. That's another fair conversation. Yeah.
Nobody can say
Being
that.
so balanced today. I'm so mature. It's because of my new cup. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I got a new cup to keep my tea in. Because the bar have told me I can't keep using their glasses to keep tea in.
I thought it was because of the elbows on your shirt.
You triggered by this?
I'm not triggered. I
This
just
is
said I
that.
think it makes you more balanced.
It is more balanced, yeah. Anyway, so I think that's all of the information from the event, realistically. So it's won by Beast of Chaos, so that's awesome. Flesh Eater Courts came in the top 10 3 times. You'll find more of this information out in the stat show done by me and LLV tomorrow. But long story short, and also there was loads of other really great armies. Core Dragon I saw knocking around, that was really fun. Nikos played against Liam Jordan and he made like 10, 12-inch charges with his Nihorn. And like that was on stream and Nikos was like, what? On that final scenario.
Yeah.
So that was really funny. It looked like a really great weekend. The kumquats were just too good. They were just blowing my mind. Everyone was just like, yeah, I just lost a fucking Corn Dragon to one kumquat, and I was like, what? Like just bananas. And I'd seen them earlier in the week. I'd seen them play, and I'd seen them just kill 20 Sequitors every time. And I'd seen them play 3 times in a day. And then the guys playing with the Sequitors were like, it was John. He was just like, they didn't even roll the dice because they were like, every time they kill the Sequitors, it just happens. And I was just like, because my Kadai will never go through Sequitors ever because their save's too good.
Yeah.
And they're my kind of punchy unit, if you will, if I've got a punchy unit in my army. I was just like, I don't know what to do about it. I don't think my Kadai would survive. And that's like, they'll survive anything. I fought 2 Vampire Lords and Zombie Dragons before with 12 Kadai, and the Vampire Lords have been like, fuck, die, and then the Kadai are like, 5 up saves, fuck you, buddy. And I just don't think they'd survive a round of combat against one of those kumquats. And I don't really know what to do in that situation. Because they're my screen. I'm like, what do I do? I think I've got to take chaff.
But do you think you could shoot? How many dragons do you think you could shoot?
I think I could kill one of them a turn. But then that's the problem. So, like, if we were doing trades, like if they get to go first, and they're faster than me, so they get to basically decide the charge. You know, not necessarily, but generally. That means that they trade that I trade the Kadai for a kumquat. But then that kumquat can kill 2 units for 35 glaives. And then I've just got one fucking demon smith looking, just eyeballing this fucking dragon who's like, fucking come on, son, I've got 2 attacks. Yeah. And while I really believe in my demon smith, I just don't think I can't trade well enough. And sometimes you can trade through attrition, right? But there's no attrition with how powerful they are. I just don't know what to do. Unless I can get enough minuses to hit on them. That could be the only real big thing, I think. I don't know. I'm still trying to work it out, but it's really interesting. And then the Skaven are scarier, because they're better. I don't know how they're better, but they're better. Yeah. They're better all day long. Yeah. And also Matt Pashmi said that I should throw pocket sand in kumquat players' eyes. Game over. So that's the new Honest Wargamer method. I'm using my platform to encourage everyone to carry sand around in their pockets and throw pocket sand in people's eyes. Hashtag not really. Not really hashtag.
That's fair.
Right, cool. So is there any other bit? Is there anything from the weekend, Nath, that you loved, or like? I thought the event was amazing. By the way, I think I don't know what the guys are doing about the venue, but I think they're doing something with the venue. But the people there and the venue was awesome.
Yeah, it's just great to see everybody. Catch up with people, see people rolling dice, feel jealous, want to roll dice.
We're going to Adepticon soon.
Yeah.
Then we'll roll dice there.
Good.
Are you excited about playing all the kumquats at Adepticon?
Yes, I am.
What are you going to hit? What are you going to shoot them with?
I don't know yet. I've still not decided what I'm taking.
Nathan, you're always cussing me out. Tell me how to beat these 2 armies. Tell me.
Take Dispossessed.
But how do I actually beat them?
Skaven are a hard one, I think. Flesh eaters, yeah, just shoot them with your Skaven.
Shit. All right. Yeah. I'm making my squigs right now, so Scrivo, right. Games Workshop sounds, so I still pay to win. That's it. That's clever. Yeah, Morsar Guard could be a thing. Anyway, really interesting weekend and kind of like blown my mind. I think those books are stronger than any books we've seen so far.
Yeah, they would kill the Morsar Guard,
Yeah.
unfortunately, before the Morsar Guard got a turn to fight. I mean, you could electrify one a bit, but it would still kill you.
Fight kumquat with kumquats in Cinder.
Yeah.
What is a kumquat, by the way? I know is it a fruit?
Yes, fruit.
What does it look like? A pear?
No.
What does it look like? I'm hoping someone photoshops one of these.
No, actually.
A gawking on top of a
I think
kumquat.
it's like a small little orangey type thing.
An orangina?
No, like a small
Like a
orange.
tangerine?
Yeah, but different. Like not so fleshy.
Not so fleshy on the flesh eater courts. Stop it. Nashhol's helping us out here. It looks like a kumquat. And Matt Pastry says it's a large dragon.
Yeah, a little orange. There we go.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. I think 10 fanatics.
10 fanatics, because they get to go first. This is into the king specifically. Sorry,
Kill him
the
before he. Yeah, I mean, then he gets to activate and kill them, but he'll be dead.
with a spell, not a command ability, with a
Yeah,
spell.
well, stop him. Yeah, Malevolent Moon and then 10 fanatics.
No problem. So it's all about the combos, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or
really
15
interesting.
fanatics.
I think some of the other books are going to be crying out for some battle tomes soon to help play at this level, in my opinion. Daughters of Cain can do it, says One Weekly Tom, but they have to be built with the right tools. And that's the other problem as well. Someone pointed out you could take Wrathmongers, right? Which is great, yeah? But if you're building only to beat kumquats, then you're not building to beat everything else that's potentially out there.
Yeah,
and viable.
War Blinding Cannons will kill.
Huh?
War Blinding Cannons will kill them and they'll kill the Wrathmongers.
Okay. All right, I believe you. I'm just saying. It's just tough. So Twitch chat and everyone, I think that's everything that we've taken away from this weekend. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It made me like super pumped. I was looking at War Scrolls on the drive back. I was looking at War Scrolls this morning. There was just loads of info. Holy Wars GT happened this weekend, and we saw Skaven win that event. I'm pretty certain that was exactly the right answer. So 2 battle tomes just out the park, just winning, which is pretty scary. I think there's... and LOV says 15 Castigators shooting twice. Ren 2, rerolling against monsters. Could be a thing. Savage Arrow Boys says Skill Shots 92. So what it looks like is everyone in the Twitch chat is going... see that big fucking dragon, Rob? I'm going to murder him. So if you could, if ever you murder one, can you please tweet me or message me a picture? Dead kumquat.
Yeah, the best way to beat them is to play them when Speckles is at the helm.
I mean, that really helps. Yeah. Because didn't he win one game?
The first day.
The first day.
Yeah, he won a couple the second day. But he lost to 4 giants. And an Iron Blaster. And a Fire Belly. So, I mean... There we go.
Okay.
There we go. That's the combo you need. 4 giants.
4 giants.
One of them has to be the big
Bone Grinder Giant.
Bone Grinder Giant. That's the one. 1 Iron Blaster.
1 Iron Blaster.
And 1 Fire Belly.
That's a really off-meta list as well.
And then some other stuff.
Just ogres specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter what the other things are.
It doesn't matter.
Those are the key components to a kumquat.
The kumquat killing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To making kumquat marmalade. Hashtag.
That's if you kill one, that's what you have to do. You have to tweet us kumquat marmalade. Hashtag. Yeah, that's the thing. He did lose to Nigel. That's who he lost to at the weekend. And Cadro saying 30 Glayguard with -3 bodkins to go murder some kumquats. and I think it was the only ogre win that weekend. So ogres beat Flesh Eater Course this weekend. Mick Wendell's going to be sat there like, sweet. You're telling me more giants and more ogres? I'm in.
Have that Iron Blaster?
Yeah. So
Fire belly.
Hey Chris, we are painting tomorrow. Yeah. It was a great weekend, and again, I want to say thank you to everyone on Patreon and Twitch, because you guys obviously financially created our ability to do the weekend. So thank you for doing that, because we covered 2 games, but we also covered 2 games at once. Right, which is fucking cool. Like, no one else has done that, so that's fun. And there's a stat show tomorrow where we'll be talking about some more of this. That no one wants to be part of the kumquat killing crew. That's just not an okay team to be in. So don't do that. So yeah, we're talking all stats, because I think LLV's mind might have been exploded, because in AOS 2.2, so since the FAQ and these new battle tomes, Nathan, the Gits haven't got on the charts.
Yeah.
But these guys, straight out the fence, they're doing it. What do you think?
Yeah, good books, aren't they?
Good books, yeah. Good books.
If you like rules.
Core players should be super excited. Me and Nathan will be back next week. We'll be talking scenarios as well as doing rundowns. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Thank you to everyone on Twitch and Patreon. Thank you, Twitch chat. You guys have been hilarious. Thank you for helping us invent a new story. With the kumquats.
Marmalade
and thanks for joining us. I hope you have a great hobby week, whatever you're up to. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you've got any thoughts or feelings, make sure to always talk about this stuff between yourselves as well. And thanks for supporting the show, allowing some fair, independent reviews of stuff. That's it. Nate, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jet. Watch
Thanks,
out.
Jet.
Watch out for the Jet emote on the page. I'll be bringing also some Blood Tide list coverage, as well as I'm going to be at Blood Tide doing coverage.
Oh, sweet.
So that's in a couple of weeks. Heat 1's this weekend, so we might see some more Flesh Eater Course take out the event.
Are you going to get to play there?
At Heat 1 this weekend. Yeah. See, I could play, but then I wouldn't have. It'll be like my 9th weekend in a row, and I'm kind of tempted.
You got bugger all else to you.
That's rude. That's rude. That's rude. I've got so much stuff to do for the show. Yes. Okay. Maybe. I might play. I'll decide on Thursday what I'm going to do. Matt Pesci said, biggest takeaways from the show, kumquats and hashtag pocket sand. And Blood Tide is teams, so it's going to be a team event. But yeah, all right. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You guys have been great. If you've got any thoughts or feelings, we're always open to conversation, so let us know. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, cheers.
Bye.